Welcome to the Femalepreneur Coach podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Barr. I am a transformational mindset and business coach and six-figure award-winning female entrepreneur. Ladies, I'm here to tell you that business and making money doesn't have to be hard when you're in alignment and flow. Inside this podcast, I will be showing you how to transform your mindset to program it for success, how to maximize your money vibrations, and how to redesign your business for ultimate financial and time freedom. You know you are meant to live an epic life. Now it's time to claim it. Hi ladies, welcome to another episode of the Femalepreneur Coach podcast. I am so excited to be speaking with you today and joined by just an absolute badass, Laura Beddoe, who is a spiritual empowerment and embodiment coach for women in business. I've been really excited about this episode, Laura. I just mentioned beforehand, I'm kind of fangirling a little bit at your level of expertise that you're going to be sharing with us, because it's something that I've delved into, that you obviously are that next level kind of guru in terms of female energy and all the things. But firstly, thank you so much for being here with me today.
It's my absolute pleasure, and also the same. I've been really excited about coming on and speaking to you, and after our conversation last week, there's so many synchronicities and just overcoming that trauma and making it so it's not our story, that it's actually, yes, of course it is part of our story, but it doesn't own us. And I love that. And we're both leading the way for women to know that they don't have to stay in that. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we were just sort of touching on some of the things that we're going to be talking about in this episode. And genuinely, it feels so exciting, almost like a soul connection, because we're so aligned to the mission to essentially be like disruptors within our industries and change the narrative of how women do business. So I'm super excited. But first of all, we need to set the scene and for people to really know what kind of a badass you are, because I was just so inspired by a lot of your story in terms of like the personal elements, but also, you know, the masculine and the strategic elements. Like, you are a very well established sales professional. So would you mind kind of explaining to some of the women about, you know, who you are, what you do, and your journey to date? That would be amazing.
Yeah, just before I do that though, I just want to say it's also really, really aligned that today is Friday the 13th that we're recording this. And that is the day of the goddess. So we've been trained, and we're both disruptors, we've been trained to think that Friday the 13th is bad luck, when in fact it's actually the day of the goddess, and it's the day of really connecting in with your divine feminine. And the reason that the patriarchy changed that is because they didn't want women to know their power. I don't think that that's a coincidence. So I just wanted to start with that.
That's really funny, actually, just super quick, because I was I think I did on my stories the other day about how, you know, like the perception of women and how we're supposed to do business and be on 24/7. Obviously that goes against all of our like energy and the, you know, cycles and all of the things. And I'm like, I guess, like, I wonder who started that rumor. And it's obviously come from men, that things have to be done like one way and that's it. So I love that you pointed that out. So yeah, that makes so much bloody sense. Of course it is a man. Of course. Not that I hate men, but you know, of course it is.
But yeah, so talking about where I started, so like going right back, like the beginning of the story, like how it was before I got to where I am now. So I had a lot of trauma in my early years, which sort of led me into becoming this young woman who was really, really angry, but very, very unconscious. So I wasn't going into the world as a high performance woman that I am today. I was very much in the world, just becoming a chameleon as to what I thought that people wanted from me. And that kind of steered me into really toxic relationships. And the way that you do love and sex is the way that you do everything. Yeah. It spills out into everything. So for me, I wasn't going into any of my roles within business or within my love life going into any situation thinking, is this person aligned for me? Do they have the same values as me? Does this business feel like it's going to, that that they're going to be good enough for me. It was very much, I wanted to prove myself in every single situation. So I
To be
feel,
accepted.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
quite interesting actually, even with money, like money as a money mindset coach, it's actually not about the money, it's about the value that we place on ourselves and what we bring to the table, essentially, that determines what we are comfortable with receiving in return. So it's so interesting that you've said, like, it's all linked, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's how you feel within yourselves. And we are programmed to feel unworthy.
Yeah.
We're programmed to, we're conditioned constantly. We are being, flashed constantly in the media, everywhere that we look, that you're not good enough and you need this product to be good enough, right? So it's like, okay, I was completely engrossed in that, completely unconscious, and living my life in a way that I just would be, and I think I said this to you last time, it's like, just love me, anyone love me.
Yeah.
And it, and I have so much compassion for that woman, or that young woman that I was today, because I didn't know any different. And I used to beat myself up about that, like, oh my God, I was just so, I used to even think, oh, I was so what's the word, like clingy and all of the things, needy, and but
no,
I
I'm not.
didn't know any
I'm like,
different.
yeah, needy. That was me too. I was the same, and now the only people that get that from me is my children. I'm like, just love me.
Yeah, so it was like really, really unconscious living, but I still was really driven. I still was, I always knew in my heart that I would be successful. I didn't know how. I just knew
Like
that
that inner knowing.
and I always knew that I was here to make a difference, even in my really early 20s. Like, I knew, and the moves that I made were still really. I set up a business, and I used to run an entertainment company in my really early 20s. But that was very ego driven. It was very much like, look at me. Like, again, love me.
You gotta love me, because look what I'm doing. Like, I'm successful on the surface.
Yeah, proving, like, very much coming from this real proving energy. But I was still, on the surface to everybody else, it looked like I was really successful. I was a model, like I did, and I also was smashing it in sales, but it wasn't going into a place where I felt good. I was inside, I was completely broken.
Well, it's like, it's never enough, is it? You could get to even, I know one of the things that you progressed on was the network marketing business. Like, so again, like very patriarchal, very much like, get to this step, then to this step, then to this step, because that's what looks like success for us. But when you then start to tick it off these milestones, and you're like, but now I've got the car, or now I've got the this, I don't feel any different. Like, what is going on? I think that's where a lot of people struggle, isn't it? It's like, it didn't give me the validation that I thought it did, so now what the fuck? Like, genuinely.
And that's coming from a driving force of proving, oh, look at me, now I've got this car, look at me, because of, and it's very much, and when you stem that right back, and what I'm really, really good at with my clients is actually getting to the core reason, and this is where I go completely woo.
I love it. I'm like literally pulling up my sleeves, like, I am ready for this.
It might not even be from this lifetime that you're carrying this wound. It might be from a previous lifetime that you are carrying this soul wound that is making you believe that you need to prove yourself, and you've carried for it. And we choose this life. We choose this life. We don't. This is what I believe, of course. Like, take everything that I say with a pinch of salt, but I believe that we choose this life. So the struggles that I've had in this life, I believe I chose them so that I can lean into love, and to undo the patterns and become the light that the world needs to see. Because our biggest strengths, and I'm sure you teach this all of the time as well, Rebecca, our biggest strengths come from our weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're never really tested and can really see what you're capable of until you've truly been through some element of adversity. And yeah, absolutely, I totally believe that. Like, I'm so grateful for every challenge in life. It's made me such a more resourceful, creative, empathetic, like, person that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to become otherwise. Yeah. Oh my God, I just honestly, I love it so much. I totally believe this. And for a lot of people, that's quite a jarring statement, isn't it? In that we chose this these challenges for this lifetime. A lot of people want to believe that it's happening to them, not for them.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, going back to the point is that I ended up in really masculine dominated environments where I was purposely, again, the universe gives us the lessons and we keep coming up with the same thing over and over. Like in relationships, you'll have a pattern, you'll keep seeing, in relationships as well. Until you've learnt the lesson, you're going to keep seeing the same person, the same energy, probably getting worse and worse, but with a different face. And
Mm,
the same with like me in my sales career is that I would go and work somewhere. It wasn't aligned for me. I was trying to make it work. And I would always attract these like misogynist, real, like, oh, just sexist pigs as like managers. And it would just always be this friction. And yeah, just I actually, one of my sales jobs that I had, I was working in an office and I was the only female and 25 men, just
yeah.
me with 25 men. It's like, you know, I was then supposed to be a disruptor, but I didn't know it then. And so I would become this like chameleon and kind of like the lads banter and, very masculine. I was very, very much in my toxic masculine energy then. And
You know
as
what,
I said,
I would love to know actually, like I feel like we need to like dive into that a little bit actually, because our background is very similar in that it's like you say, same face but different role. Like all of my corporate positions prior to being a business owner were construction, telecoms. Like I worked on a contract for a very big telecoms company and there were 1,200 men and 3 women, and I was one of them that was on site all the time, constantly like having to hold my own with guys that were like, oh, I'll meet you in the car park and like all of this. And it was like I couldn't even go into, in some briefings like South London, like I couldn't even allow the door to be closed because I wouldn't feel safe. And then as I became a business owner, I bought a barbershop, tattoo shop, like all boys, only women. Like, what is that about? Is that some sort of like, why are we attracted to these masculine situations? Is it, for me, I've always enjoyed working with men because you know where you are. Like I always like that if you think I'm a dick, they'll tell you a dick. Like they'll tell you to your face.
yeah.
And it's all of it kind of takes away all of the ambiguity of so for me, and I'm just like I'm curious now, like this wasn't what I was going to be talking to you about, but for me I think because I was a child that never felt really like I don't know where I am, I don't feel very comfortable, I don't feel very safe going into an environment where it's very transparent, like I say, people will come to your face and tell you how they feel about you. Men don't really hold anything back, and particularly in those environments, that was comforting to me. I couldn't bear going into a female office. So when I would then go into the office where it'd be like, feel like people are talking about me. I don't like this person's nice to me, but are they really my friend? And it was like the cloak and dagger element I hated. I would want to go out on site and I'd rather be surrounded by men than be with women. Have you ever experienced that inadvertently, unconsciously kind of drawn to that? I know
Yeah,
where you are energy.
unconsciously, the reason that no, I don't know without going into a proper full session with you why,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I'm just talking from my own experience.
Yeah.
The reason that is that I was drawn to very toxic masculine,
Yeah.
very toxic masculine energy because that is what I'd learned.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt safe in unsafe environments.
Yeah.
And I had to undo that. I had to relearn that energetically, it's okay for me to be in environments where I had to work on my own nervous system. That actually the environments I was putting myself in, they weren't okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and unless I was like really going into yours and knew your complete backstory, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to tell you exactly
I
why.
find that a lot though, when I find women that are overly masculine. So even some of my clients, like that would call themselves as the no BS, straight to the point, like fast action taking, very much like get shizzle done kind of women, they also resonate with men. And I wondered if more than women. And I just wondered if, like, because we've kind of got some commonalities there, if there was maybe more to it. But it's probably just like you say, it's mirroring what's being reflected back to you. So it just feels familiar, and that's why it feels safe.
But also it might be like, just thinking of from the top of my head from what you've said, is that again, that mirror is that was the environment that made them feel safe as a child. So it may be that you wanted that masculine energy that was there and that was safe, and that's why you're drawn to that. But I think a lot of women are stuck in masculine energy. But I also really want to stress that this is what happened to me through my process, which we'll talk about in more depth, I'm sure, is that for me, I then went on this journey where I wanted to like attract my divine feminine and learn about reclaiming my sovereignty. And then I was sort of scared of my masculine energy. But I really want to stress that your masculine energy is amazing as well. Like, and learning to accept that that's where you're taking your aligned action. That's where you are. For you to be fully in your divine feminine, you have to invite in your divine masculine to hold it.
Yeah.
That's the structure of your business. That's the planning. That's the forward thinking. That's the revenue. You know, that's the container that holds it all. So it allows you to be in your feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's getting the balance, isn't it? Where it is, like you say, you know, it's holding yourself to account, it's getting the structure in your business, and it's ensuring that you can deliver on whatever is coming forward that actually needs to be executed on. So yeah, it's trying to find the balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I was really scared of my masculine. I almost thought it was a bad thing that I was in my masculine. But again, I used to be so far into my masculine energy that I would burn myself out constantly, make myself sick. I had 2 mental breakdowns, you know, so it was like,
that gave me chills when you said that.
I needed to find that balance.
Yeah. Was there something that triggered that, or was that just over a bit? I mean, it's either occurrence, but I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's being in that constant push energy, something has to give. And we pride ourselves on how resilient we can be, how resourceful, how much shit we can take. But actually, you're doing yourself a disservice. So presumably that came to a head for you, did it?
Yeah. So for me, again, it was very much like I was in these sales environments, very masculine, very male dominated, but still really holding my own within that space. You know, I was I actually used to go into gyms, like very like bodybuilder independent gyms, and this is when I started to do some work on myself internally. And I used to go in and do like this overview of their strategy to help them to increase revenue. And at that time, the guy that owns that gym, I hope he never listens to this. I don't think he will. He was very in his ego, like really in his ego. So I had that going on at work, not as much as what I'd experienced previously, but he was a bit of a D a lot of the time. And now I still know that actually that was something I needed to get me to where I am today. And I also was at home, I was in a relationship where I was being verbally and physically abused. And and I was taking drugs pretty much every other weekend whilst raising my son, who is now 18. At the time he was 12. I don't feel good about saying that, you know, I took drugs, but drugs were a big part of my life, and that was an escape for me. And I went and watched the Whitney Houston film last weekend with my mum, and just resonated with that as well, like her life and how she needed an escape. And that was my escape, that was my control, that was me taking my control back. And it all came to a head with him. And actually, I was listening to, at that time, this is before I could drive, because driving for me was like this thing that I had to put on the back burner all of the time, because I never had enough money. I was working all of the time with my son, no support from his dad, and going back to this toxic relationship. And I found Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I used to...
Yeah, I've got her book. I was just referred to it the other day because I've had really bad toothache. And it's all around indecision. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so Louise Hay is like a massive part of my journey. So I was actually walking to work every day, and it was about at least a mile walking to work. And I was listening to her recording every single day. And what started to happen is my mindset started to shift, but everything around me started to fall apart.
Yeah.
Now, I thought at that time, oh my God, this is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But it actually was the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was actually my second dark night of the soul. So actually in our first chat, I talked about what had happened before, like about 5 or 6 years before to that, where I did try to take my own life, which is really, really sad. And I had my first spiritual awakening then. And over like 5 years, things started to get better, but still was manifesting these toxic relationships and toxic situations. And it was when I was listening to this Louise Hay that it felt like my world literally crumbled beneath my feet, and I lost everything. In the space of a month, I lost that relationship, which actually felt like at the time that I was losing something really special.
Because you've been together so long. Yeah. Yeah.
And that job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lost my home, because back then you used to, as a single mum, I was renting a property, and they basically they knew that I was then claiming benefits when the partner had left, and they wanted somebody that wasn't claiming benefits. And back then you used to have 3 amounts of the money up front, which was, I don't know, it was a lot of money to me. And I found myself homeless, living in a shelter. And it was in that moment when I had nothing, literally, I walked into this homeless hostel with literally just a bin bag and my son. And in that moment, I just laid on the bed and I was just like, I am never going to be in this situation again. My son is never going to be in this situation again. And in that moment, something happened, and everything shifted, and I went on my spiritual journey. I found out that I'm a clairvoyant, and just
so exciting.
Just everything opened for me.
I literally have like goosebumps, and again, so much of that resonates with me. Even, and I mean, you know, it's not about me, but so much of what you're saying really resonates with me. And I think the thing is, there's this expectation that change happens overnight, and that as a woman, you know, it's almost like the pressure that, you know, if bad things happen in relationships, like, because we all grew up with the well, actually you're a bit younger than me, but I grew up with the Spice Girls and being like an independent woman of the 90s, and we don't take any shit. And actually, you know, you get yourself out of these situations, but actually it's really fucking hard, and it's not that easy. And it sounds like your relationship, it was never just black and white. Like, he was obviously good at some times, not at other times, and the boundaries of what you're used to being, you know, how you're used to being treated are a little bit blurred. And it you know, that sounds almost like a 5-year journey that you went on before you actually got to the good bit. And yet all of us are looking for those quick wins, that it's like, by the end of the year I'm going to be a new person. Now you can be, but equally change can also you can't, you know, kind of speed up divine timing. If your journey is meant to take longer, and it's meant to be, you know, filled with all of these like windy roads and kind of pit stops and side notes and all of those things, that's how it's meant to be, and that's okay. So that kind of felt really good for me, that it's like we still get to the same destination, but it might take a bit longer. And I think that needs to be celebrated more, because a lot of women are feeling like, God, why is it not happening for me quicker? Why can't I leave? Why can't I do these things? Like, why is this not happening? Why haven't I just got it inside me to be like this badass Beyonce? But it's like, the reality is you become Beyonce, don't you? Your own Beyonce, and it happens over time.
Yeah, it's a gradual process, and
Yeah,
I'm not in the destination lounge now, you know. I'm
yeah,
still
yeah. In
working
progress.
through. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we're just like onions.
Yes.
We're onions. We've got so many layers of this conditioning, the patriarchy, ancestral wounds, witch wounds, you
Yeah.
know, sisterhood wounds, mother wounds, father wounds. You know, these are all impacting how we're making our decisions. But the truth is that the only moment that we ever have is now.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And it's said a lot without any real, but it's like, genuinely, like it is only this moment. And even if your change today looks like you say, just investing in a personal development book and starting to like slowly to start that work in that process, that's okay. Like, you don't have to take radical drastic action all the time. It's like whatever it looks like for you. But I also love the fact that you touched on the power of decision. Just bizarrely, I literally was on the school run this morning reading that book. And then you said about when I sat on the bed and just decided, like, this is not going to be our reality. This is not our future. This is never happening again. Like, that's just so interesting to me that this morning I was listening to the power of decision, because that's presumably what happened when you made that shift, that ripple effect of that decision out into the universe. But also just kind of locking into some place that things had already been happening in your consciousness, was obviously what then completely transformed your situation. So what happened? I'm like, what happened next?
So I just needed to change my identity, because very much inside of me, I was a victim and life was out to get me.
Yeah.
So I needed to work on that and embody that actually, no, life is working for me, that everything changes when you decide to change. And yeah, just went on this amazing spiritual journey, awakening, trained in Reiki, became a Reiki master. And I always wanted to work with women in business because of my background, but I still had this massive block. Like, I felt like an imposter, that how can I be a spiritual business coach? People won't take me seriously. And again, that was very much to do with having a witch wound and from a previous life.
Something that what happened in that previous life? Like, I'm quite interested in this.
So there's a couple, because we have many previous lives, and I've had a couple of lives where I've been drowned and burnt as a witch.
Oh, wow. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
What a, like, wow. Oh my God. I had a beautiful previous life, actually. I was a Romanian princess. And funny enough, my DNA came back in, it was like Eastern European. And I was like, yeah, because I've been a Romanian princess. So that sounds amazing to me. I don't remember how I passed though. I think it was quite peaceful.
Hopefully. But
yeah,
that's why a lot of women, even though they're spiritual, they're connected, they're practicing using cards, and they want to have that side of themselves. That's why it feels like it's almost like a little secret, because of the way that we have, again, it comes back to conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I had to go on this journey. I was in network marketing for a long time, and then I decided to set up my holistic business, and I've never looked back.
Yay. Well, network marketing is almost like a bit of a baptism of fire as well, isn't it? Because a lot of the way that you expand your network is by getting visible. And if that's the hardest thing that you've struggled with in terms of because of, like you say, that just that intuitive knowing that every time historically women have put themselves forward or been outspoken or been different or been visible, they've drawn negative attention to themselves. Like, you're going against probably everything that internally is going on that wants to keep you safe and gives you that resistance. So that's really amazing that you really leaned into that network marketing, because also intuitively it's about building a collective, isn't it, which we both feel really aligned to do.
Yeah, I haven't told you as well. So obviously I'm 37, so there's lots of moving parts to the story.
Yeah.
And then I went on to meet the love of my life, who I'm getting married to in April. Our relationship is very, very different from any relationship that I've ever had. It's very grown up. It's very supportive. I believe he's my soulmate. But I had to learn to love myself before I could have that relationship. And I had to learn about boundaries. I had to learn, and that's something I'm still working on today. It's not like like you said, it's not like something overnight. I have to work through that. And I invest in seeing a regular therapist. I invest in coaches. I invest in myself to do the inner work on a daily basis. And I think it's interesting that people think that, you can meditate once or a week, or you can meditate, or you can do affirmations for 10 minutes in the morning, and then they think, okay,
I'm
then
good.
I'm good. But it's like, if you had a shower once a week, you would start to smell. So it's like, really, that's the key is to embodiment, is like repetition and tapping into that worthiness. And with Nick, we had a lot of fertility problems, and that led me into understanding the menstrual cycle, which was like the last key ingredient that I needed to really elevate.
Oh, it must be true.
It really elevate my business and my life, was that your womb space, when you're thinking about your energetic body, so we have 7 chakras within the body, your womb space is not just creating babies, it's creating everything. It's creating life force energy. That is the key to your manifestation. And where I had so much guilt, shame locked in that space, I had to work with releasing that to know that I'm enough. And I had to do a lot of work around that. And that's something that I teach within everything that I do. So I run a membership, I have a mastermind, and a one-to-one space container that I take women through. And the thread that runs through all of that, no matter what you're doing, is helping women to understand their bodies and their menstrual cycle, because that is a game changer.
Yeah, because we often say, don't we, about you feel it in your gut. And I kind of take a similar approach to my clients, but obviously I'm not an expert in the womb space specifically, but just intuitively, you always know if something feels weird, like someone's energy doesn't feel right, something that somebody said doesn't quite feel like, your BS meter might go off before your conscious thoughts catch up with you. And I love anyone who can support women to, because this is essentially like our superpower, isn't it? Because we're all inherently psychic, am I right? Or have some form of psychism, but it's like we've disowned that part of ourselves, so now we don't know how to tap into it, but we kind of do. And it's like our body's trying to help us get back to that sense of self. And I know when we spoke before, you said it's about calling women home. That was like, yes, I've never been able to like intuitive, like just know how to put that together, but that's how it feels, doesn't it? We need to come back to knowing ourselves.
And that's the thing, is that when you come home to yourself, and it's like you've just said, everybody has intuition. Everybody has that. So it's learning to really trust it, and that you have to sometimes slow down to speed up. And not come from like this like very much like, this is only something I worked on like 18 months ago, even, that I was very much coming from approving energy. Like everything I did was like, mummy, look at me. Whereas when you reclaim that and you come from a space that is authentic to you, that is aligned to you. And that word is thrown around so much, alignment, it really annoys me. But you can come from alignment from a place which is like what you think is out of alignment is actually, like, I'm just going to give an example, like working with a client recently. She was really freezing with her business, and I was like, why are you not doing things? And she was just like, because it feels out of alignment. I was like, so it feels out of alignment to make money? And she's like, when we've already done this work. And then we obviously overcome the block around that. So she felt out of alignment doing the thing, but actually she was out of alignment not doing the thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why you need to invest in people that can see you from a 3D or 5D angle, because yes, you can get to the destination that you want eventually by yourself, but it's working with somebody like myself or you that can actually see the shadows and you can see the person from that 5D and help them to overcome, and that's how you quantum shift.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes it's like, is it even possible? Like some of the visions, and I think this is where the intuition comes in, that like when I work with a client and I'm like, I can see the highest vision for you and your business right now. Because for me, business is, you know, I'm very much feminine and masculine. I love the business of business, so I do actually enjoy it. Like I'm an entrepreneur by heart. So and probably the same with you with your sales background. Like there's something about that energy and stuff that I love. That I've always been like retail or something fast-paced energy when it comes to money. But when I say like I see that highest vision, it is almost like a vision, like literally. And you can't always see that for yourselves, particularly when you consider how many things are working against you, like you said, with the ancestral wounds, the societal conditioning, toxic relationships. Like how can you even necessarily, unless you are so connected that you can rise above all of that noise and all of that conditioning and all of those layers, I feel like you do need somebody. I think particularly as well, because I'm a single parent, a coach for me is a non-negotiable. I need to be held at some point in my life, in some area of my life, because I have to hold so many others, whether it be client or parents. So first of all, you have to practice what you preach. I can't expect people to invest in a coach if I'm not doing the same. But also, how can I be my best if I'm not, you know, being pushed, stretched, expanded? So it's probably the same for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And back in the day, women would have had tribal elders, wouldn't they, that we would have worked with in spiritual ways to ensure our continual growth. So so for me, how I always liken it to is nature, because you never get like a plant or a tree that's like, oh look, I've reached 6 foot, I'm good now, I'm not going to grow anymore. As long as there's like sunlight and there's water, it's going to continue for as long as it continues to exist, to keep growing and expanding and looking for those new opportunities for growth. So I feel like that's kind of our duty while we're here. And you always have that intuitive knowing that there's still a little bit more. I've done this now, it feels a bit like samey. I feel like I could, you know, expand into something else. But so do you agree on that, or am I just like,
and
because I don't really know what I'm
listening
talking
to
about a lot of the time.
your flower, and the analogy around the flower is also, and this is something that I teach within my containers, is that every single archetype is needed. So so a lot of the time, what you see in our society is that a young person will come into a workspace, and then the elders in our world, the way that we've been conditioned, is like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing, blah 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 blah. But actually, what can happen if we undo that conditioning is that the elders can learn from the maiden. So in the archetype, it's called the maiden archetype. They can learn from that youth, they can extract from that youth, and that's going to elevate them. It's like there's no hierarchy. That we're all needed when we're coming from our maiden phase into our mother phase. That's also a new kind of energy that we're bringing in, and this is something I really teach in depth. And then going into the
So
in
is it more like a
between.
cycle
Yeah.
rather
So
than
it's
like a
yeah, so it's like we're all needed. And like you said about the flower analogy, it's like the flower isn't always in bloom.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
flower goes through a season and it sheds its leaves and returns as something even more beautiful.
yeah,
So it's growing still, even when it's shed all of its petals, it's still growing, and it's resting to become something more powerful and beautiful to look at. And that's what nature is continuously teaching us, that actually if we're just pushing our foot on the pedal, like coming from that hustle energy and all of that, which is what I used to do and why I wasn't getting anywhere fast, it
yeah,
actually I was just like this I was imagining like the swan, like just
yeah,
like around underneath
yeah,
on the surface.
yeah.
Is that for you to be a high performance soul aligned woman, you know that actually that you there are times when you need to rest, there's times when you need to surrender,
Yeah.
look at what isn't serving you, and then excel and push that foot down on the pedal in the times where you're in your queen energy.
Mm. Oh my God, I just love everything you've just said. And I've never heard it put that way. Even like as you just said about the flower, where it's like it's resting, ready for that next phase. It's so true, isn't it? Where you have to slow down in order to take those quantum leaps. And yet it's the hardest thing to do, particularly in the online space, because you've got this unconscious pressure to just be on 24/7 and run a business like a man would, which is without any, well, I mean, I'm sure they've got their own issues, ego being one of them. I'm sure that men go through PMS as well. So literally everything you've just said makes so much sense, and you put it so beautifully. And I think in a way that a lot of women will, even on some level, be like, ah, yeah, okay, that makes so much sense. Even if they're not spiritual, even if they're not, they're going to get that. But I just wanted to quickly circle back and say, if you don't mind, like, how is your journey going now with fertility? That you've got all of this extra, kind of, knowledge and things that can help you. Do you see it?
So
Yeah.
so my daughter's 2.5,
Yeah.
so we had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will there be any more?
I don't know at this point. I
Mm.
don't know is the honest answer to that. And I do, that is one thing I really pride myself on, is being authentic
Yeah.
and speaking my truth. And vulnerability is like one of my values, as you can tell. Like I'm just warts and all, have me as I am, or wear my heart on my sleeve, and that's that. I don't know. We're getting married in April, and we will see, is the
Yeah.
honest answer. But on a terms of like using that cycle for business purposes and creating the life that I love, amazing. Literally, I have honestly the most dreamy clients coming into my world. I know when I'm on and when I'm off. And I really plan my business around what is going to suit me today. Yeah.
That's so powerful, isn't it? Knowing that you've got that choice. I think a lot of women, when they move from corporate into becoming an entrepreneur, I was absolutely guilty of it. It's like I just literally picked myself up in one environment and just put me in another. And the hustle, the grind, the business. I mean, my shops were open like 7 days a week. I literally had my son, Luciano, who's like 4 now. And my partner, my ex-partner at the time, was that toxic masculinity, and he was literally like, are you ready, are you done, have you had a shower? No, I'm like, no, no one can go and take me to go and get a shower. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to come pick you up, I'll take you home, you can have a shower at home, and then we'll just go to the shop. Yeah. And it's like, you need to sort out the payroll. Like literally had just given birth like 12 hours before, and it was
Wow.
just that pressure to like just keep it moving. And I always said, like, at certain points, like, I need to have a breakdown at some point, like genuinely I need to, but I physically, my body won't release, because there is just so much pressure all the time, and I couldn't do it for the kids. But it's like I needed that. And I think it's only now that I have got into better sort of maintenance practices for myself, where I am fully empowered and in control of my diary, my time, my energy. I've got nobody saying, but you need to do this, or you need to do that, or what about this, or people are counting on you, people are waiting to do. Other than my kids, you know, and they're savages, they don't care. But, I think Aviana was probably the same. Like, I literally, they were like, do you want to go home? And I was like, no, my kids are there. Stay here for a little bit longer. Just be loved for a minute. So it's just, yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? But did you fall into that? How did you come out of that trap of running your business? Was it another spiritual awakening? Was it a gradual integration of new processes and new practices? Like, for anybody that does feel like, actually, shit, yeah, do you know what? I've just created a job for myself and I'm the worst boss because I'm a mean bitch to myself.
yeah. So I actually did talk about this last night in my free community space that I host. Literally this
we
topic.
Are so aligned, aren't we? It's like, that's so weird.
And it was all about how to be a CEO and not an employee. And yeah, it's just about knowing yourself. Like, high performance women, their power is knowing themselves intricately, like knowing where their patterns are. So like most of the ladies that are inside of my containers, they know that the week leading up to their menstrual cycle is a pinch point, and they know how to navigate that in a way that is going to suit them in their life and their business.
Yeah. What if you don't have cycles? Like, just out of
If
interest.
you don't have that, I'm really glad that you asked that, actually.
Yeah, because I'm breastfeeding, but also
Okay.
there may be some women that are kind of, you know, perimenopausal, or yeah.
So I'm really glad that you asked me that. So you can track with the moon cycle. So the moon is what dictates the tides, right? So it pulls the water in and out. So I'm explaining this because a lot of women that aren't very spiritual or know about any of this stuff are like, what is she talking about? And I would have been exactly the same. If I heard someone talk about this like 15 years ago, I'd be like, this
what is she going on about? Funny though, my ex used to work on the Jaws as a doorman, and he would say, oh my god, it must be a full moon, because everyone came out like absolute lunatics, like just wanting to fight everybody. Like, it would be like, I hate it when it's the full moon, tell me when the next one's coming up.
And the same for people that work in they used to put a calendar like in mental institutes years ago,
howling at the moon.
And that's because like the moon is the gravity that pulls the water in and out. Now, what are we made up of?
60%, is it water?
I think it's 80% water. 80% water. So if you think about it like that, then that even if you're not having a menstrual cycle, if you're going through the menopause, you're in your enchantress stage, which is also known as the wild woman. I have a membership for that if you're going through it.
Love it.
And that is, if you're struggling, this is like a whole different podcast, by the way.
But I love that every season is celebrated. That feels so fucking amazing to me, that it's not like, oh, you're washed up, you're done, you're redundant. No. It's like at every phase there's new life, new opportunities, new energy.
Yes, every single phase. And if you're struggling going through the menopause, perimenopause, sorry, I know this is going off topic a little bit, but it's because there's some deep inner shadow work that needs to be done. It's your body telling you need to deal with this to enjoy your next phase. You have to deal with this. You're not listening to your body. That's what it's trying to tell the women that are really struggling with that. And I know that's probably going to piss some women off, but that is just the way that it is. And it could piss some women off, but also it can, you know, it's awakening people to know that everything is connected. Everything is connected. It's not like there's no such thing as like, oh, like your body keeps the score. And whatever's coming up for you, whether it's physically, spiritually, mentally, it's always trying to guide you back home every single time. Guide you to your highest version of yourself. That's all that your body is trying to show you all of the time. So with the moon cycle, back to your question.
So we would track it with the moon energy essentially. So we're in like half moon or something now. So that's like then going into, so would this now be, so I think we're in like half moon, so would that now be a phase of like rest and retreat? Because in theory it
So
would be like going through your ovulation and then going into the second phase.
okay, so the new moon is all about your menstruation. Then the waxing moon is all about spring energy, and like coming into your like playfulness. Like that's when you're going to start to think about like having sex. And then and then coming into the full moon, which is your like ovulation, your highest point of manifestation and having a baby. And then the waning moon is like when you're in your luteal phase, which is when your progesterone drops. And that's if you're not on the pill. Honestly, we could talk for a long time about this subject. But actually, side note, I've got a course that was £144 that teaches you every single stage of this, but it's now £17. I'll send you the link for that.
Yeah, that would be so powerful. And I can put that, I know you're coming into my mastermind anyway to speak with the women about the sales strategies that you specialize in, but that would be great anyway for the other women in my audience. So that feels really good. So that makes so much sense that it's about the ebbs and flows, it's the push and the pull, and it's knowing when to rest, when to retreat, and when to go all in. So another thing we were just talking about though that I wanted to touch on was around how that then translates to soulful selling, because one thing that we're both also quite aligned on is our sort of frustration at some of the behavior in the online space around sales and marketing strategies, and where it is very much fear-based, manipulative, like panic buying marketing strategies and language. So if you were somebody that was like, I don't feel like any of that feels good to me, how is your approach different to that? I'd love to kind of dive into that a little bit.
So what I teach my clients to do is to drop into their womb and their pussy energy, and to come from a place that is authentic. And if you're doing that, then your energy is magnetic. You don't need any of that rubbish.
Yeah,
you really don't.
it's like distracting.
And that is toxic masculine energy, all of that fake urgency, and it is designed through fear. It's coming from fear.
Yeah,
it's because you believe that, oh, if I don't say this, then I'm not going to make it. It's coming from not having enough.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we always have enough when we believe. When you step into that absolute worthiness, of course you have to have really strong boundaries as well. Like if you're coming from a place that is like you're trying to be everything to everyone and you're pleasing everyone, then that obviously, then if you're just coming from a place of if you're not, that's why a lot of these tactics are put into place, is because you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your services enough to just put it out there. But
it's like you're having
again,
to
it's
almost like I don't know, put like extra bits on top of it to make it sound like when people, you know, say, oh, I've got a course and it's like £1,000 for you today, it's only like 25 or something, where it's like they never sold it at £1,000, and it's just trying to overinflate the value. It's almost like the ego, isn't it? And it's that need to overcompensate, not, like you say, really having the value held in yourself that actually this is going to give you an incredible result, whether it's £20, whether it's £1 million, it's going to get you incredible results. And I stand by that, and having that conviction in what it is that you're putting out into the world, I think a lot of people struggle with, don't they? And that's where those tactics come in.
Yeah. And but it's also, again, it's like knowing your worth and placing firm boundaries around that.
So is that in terms of with your client relationships?
Yeah, around your price points, around what, like, again, it's like not creating false urgency. It's actually knowing that this is the price, and if you don't sign up by this point, then that offer won't be available anymore.
Yeah. So and being in integrity with what it is that you're saying.
It isn't false.
Yeah.
that is how it is.
Yeah.
And if you don't take up that offer, then it's gone, and that's
Yeah.
that. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Staying within that integrity within your sales process, that you are doing what you say that you're going to do, and not coming out of that.
And that translates to parenthood as well, doesn't it? I think so. I look at like the dynamics of the relationships, both the girls and the boys with my partner. And it's like, I am very much, I mean, obviously I'm a nurturer by nature. That's why I've got so many kids, but equally very authoritative. And there's a lot of respect between me and my children because they know what I say. It is what it is. Like, there's no like, oh, let me try her in an hour. Let me see how she feels about this. Let's, wait until she's tired. Like, it just is, because I learned with one that if I wasn't firm in those boundaries, it was going to be like a madhouse. I've got like 5 kids. It could very quickly descend into like chaos and circusness. And there is an element of that, don't get me wrong. But equally, it's like they've got that healthy respect for me and my boundaries. That means that we actually thrive as a family, because a lot of people are like, oh, do you struggle? And I'm like, no, actually, because do you know what, my kids are very respectful. If I'm working, like, there's no non-negotiable, there's no lies with the kids. Like, I mean, there'll be maybe one thing. I think Aviana managed to get past the childminder the other day, and literally up the stairs and then kicked open the door. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, she's such a savage. But genuinely speaking, like, there's such a respect. And yet when I see the dynamics between them and like their dad, where it's like anything for an easy life, like just give them what they want, keep them quiet, like da 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 da, no respect at all. They will push that boundary all day long like a
Yeah.
double door. It's literally like nudging almost like all the time. And he's like, why are they like so aggravated? And I'm like, because you allow it. Like, they don't even try it with me. Like, they would never do any of the things. So that's quite interesting. So I guess it's like how you do one thing, like you said before, just circling back on what you said about how you do one thing in life is how you do everything. So, and once you start to embody this, no, like non-fuckable with energy, like that is going to translate to all areas of your life, not just business, not just money. But certainly a lot of what you were saying around money and marketing, it's like, for me, I believe in the energy of money, and I would rather have people that are like drawn to me, like, oh my god, yes, she's my person. I would lovingly be excited to do that transaction with you, rather than, oh shit, she might know something that I don't, I better give her some money, and then not really be an aligned client. Like, that doesn't feel good to me. And it's probably the same for you, like protecting that.
I think as well that what happens is when you come from that energy is you end up attracting a lot of people that aren't self-led, and that they are coming from a very like needy energy, and then they're not going to get the results that somebody that is very self-led, as a coach, a mentor, hypnotherapist, a healer, any of those places. Of course, we are the people that are showing up and facilitating, but we're not fixing anybody. They're having to go away and do the work. It's not like we've got this magic wand. It's like abracadabra. They just show up, and obviously there's a lot that they need to do to have that transformation internally. So I think that's calling in those types of people, that when you're coming from a place where you're calling in the people that aren't expecting the world.
It's like a false economy, isn't it?
And I think that's what happens a lot, isn't it? I think I've seen a lot around the coaching industry where a lot of the coaches were sort of promising the world and delivering nothing, like in their marketing, like, and I see that is happening. But I think that we need to remember that you can't tarnish everybody with the same brush. And that separation, again, like, I could go into so much depth into this conversation. It's like there is no such thing as separation. Well, if you're triggered by, like, I do see that, especially about me talking about quantum leaps and manifestation, I've seen a lot of kind of real negative, about a bit of a backlash to that language. In the industry. But the thing is that I'm coming from a really authentic place, and you can't. And but I have seen other people that are coming from an inauthentic place. But
Yeah,
you just need to use your discernment when you're choosing somebody to work with. You
yeah,
have to, you have to do the research. And that again, I would with me, when somebody's coming into my world, I'm not in that call. I don't even try to um I'm not even trying to objection handle or anything like that, because it needs
yeah.
to be it needs to be aligned.
Yeah,
I'm giving them
I
information.
hate those terms when it's like 5 ways that you can handle sales objections. Like, why the hell would you want to? Like, why would you want to try and find a way to get somebody to give you your money? Surely, I only work with the hell yes women, and literally,
Yeah,
there's no like. I've worked with coaches that have told me to like take a deposit on the call, like, um. tell them you've only got like one spot available, and I'm like, but why? I don't want to be desperate and needy, and I don't want to encourage people that are, not desperate and
yeah,
needy, but that are looking for that magical solution that, like you say, actually is about, essentially putting a chain of events in motion within themselves. You're not there to deliver this like magical outcome anyway. So if that's now, if that's in a year, if that's in 5 years, like that's how it's meant to be. I really believe in divine timing and all of those things. And yeah, that kind of language really like makes my eye twitch when I see that
yeah.
on a business coach's page, where I'm like, I just don't understand it, particularly when it's such intimate containers as well, like group programs, masterminds, one-to-one. Like you are spending a lot of time with somebody, and you need to make sure that those are your people, and equally they need to make sure that you're their people.
And feeling safe, like
Yeah,
that is one of my values, is that because of my background, because of the trauma, and I specialize in helping women through trauma. Because you can give somebody all the strategy in the world, but if they've got trauma underneath that, it's not going to
yeah,
work.
no, it's just not going
Um,
to land in the same way.
yeah, and it's just, it's just calling in the people so they feel safe. And if they've had false urgency and sort of duped into getting there, they're not going to turn up in the right energy anyway. To be
I've had
able
a lot
to,
of that actually, because I've been in coaching a long time now. So probably, I mean, my whole life essentially, but I think probably like officially in the last 5 years. And I've definitely noticed like audiences have been really burnt out by a lot of, like, say, programs that just haven't delivered. And there's a lot of fear around reinvesting in themselves. But then equally, it's about that expectation of getting such a tangible outcome. Sometimes it's not about the tangible outcome. Sometimes it's just about being held to really then kind of uncover some of the things that you were already innately inside you. I don't think our soul is talking about funnels when it's talking about, like, that inner knowing and stuff. I don't think it's strategy for funnels and all a competency with Facebook ads. I don't think that is what we're talking about. So yeah, I think it's also shifting the expectation of what a coach is and it isn't. So that's just kind of made me think, oh, actually I should probably put that on a post. So if you've got somebody that is, though, like really bought into that, like, I've got this business which I feel is like a true expression of my soul's mission, my purpose here on this world, there is an element of, I need to make some money, because otherwise it's not going to be a business for very long. So what do you think when you say like soulful selling, what does that mean to you, other than just in terms of like marketing and speaking from integrity and being authentic, being original, like all of those great things? What kind of things would you say are soulful selling techniques?
I would say, sign up to my mastermind.
Yeah, fair enough.
No,
Is
I
it
would say,
fair enough? So
I would
is
say, it's dropping down into your heart and coming
yeah,
from like, get out of your head.
yeah,
Your head isn't going to get you far, because
yeah,
your head is full of the limited beliefs and the monkey mind going off and all of that crap that we've just spoken about. Drop down into your heart and just speak to people. Like, that's what I'm doing now. I'm speaking to you from my heart.
yeah,
I'm opening up my heart space, and I'm saying, this is what I believe, and you are enough. You are worthy to sell your soulful business. And if you're not selling your soulful business, then you're actually doing the world a
the service.
disservice,
Yeah,
because they need you right now.
yeah,
We need soul awakened people, not just women. We need people to wake up. And that's the biggest tip that I would say. Just drop out of your head
Yeah.
Stop coming from proving energy. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. The only person that you need to prove yourself to is the woman that you're looking at in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's so true.
And just come from every day, not how can I make money? How can I make money? How can I make money? When you stop thinking about the money, who can I serve?
Yeah.
Who needs me in their life? How can I show up and help? And you know what happens? And it's happened to me. I know I can honestly say is that when I start to think about I need 100 people to sign up to this, and I need like stuff that's in your head. That's very masculine energy.
It's like vanity metrics, isn't it?
Yeah. When you start to think like that, I need at least 100 people. I need this. I need that to sell this amount. Like, just stop doing that and just think, okay, who's the one person today that needs me?
Yeah.
Like one person.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's so true. It's I actually used to be a launch strategist very much before I kind of leaned into more of the spiritual side, and I was very much in my masculine energy, and it's like a 5-step signature blueprint, and you know, all of these things that are gonna like processes and stuff to put into place to actually guarantee like these 6-figure launches. And the reality is the more and more that I kind of ran these launches, I realized that it's actually less about the launches and it's less about the numbers, and it's all about the depth of connection on the day, and that people were starting to call out the BS coaches. So I used to like do this for other coaches as well, and it was like the women that showed up with genuine integrity from a place of service, wanted like with no expectation of the outcome, just the right women are going to hear this at the right moment, that are going to then be, you know, feel that calling to maybe take this one step further. They were the ones that always got the incredible results. The ones that were very much in their ego, like chasing me down, like me and my team, like we haven't had enough signups, send another email, like da da da. They would just not get the results. And it's like you need to have that lean back energy where it is just taking it away from the numbers game. I have to be really honest, like as a business coach, I'm probably the laziest business coach ever, like genuinely. Like I don't live launch, I don't get in the DMs. Like I might have conversations and stuff with people, particularly if I feel called to their profile, but I don't it's very much when I feel led to. So, you know, I'm consistent in terms of my content and showing up and delivering, but you know, there was a time where literally 80% of my business came from referrals, because I was like, I don't need to worry about any of this. Like I'm good. Like for some reason, like divine law of compensation, good karma, whatever you want to put it to, things just find their way to me. So it's been quite hard to translate that to I've definitely gone through that period where I attracted a lot of women that needed a lot of hand holding. They were like, but we need to know, like, what are your daily, weekly, like monthly, like hourly things that you're doing? And I'm like, I'm just serving my clients, like genuinely. Like, it's like Gandhi, isn't it? When it's like, if you want to make the world a better place, go home and love your family. I always think if you want more clients, go back and really serve the clients that you've got really well. They will be the ones that will then go, and also they'll get incredible results and that will sell itself. But they will be the ones to go out and spread the message of, and that's kind of what's happened for me. But it's quite hard to translate that for people that are in that masculine push energy, that are like my other coach that told me to DM 20 people a day, friend request 100 people on Facebook, that like,
that's network marketing days. Oh my goodness.
No, this
And
isn't even
very
network marketing.
That's very much in the Juice Plus days where I was told exactly that, and now I'm I'm trained as a therapist, and I see that a lot of network. I mean, I took a lot from network marketing. I'm not bashing that industry. I did take a lot. I learned a lot about showing up and being seen in that industry. But very much playing on people's human needs. Like,
like target all the mums that don't want to go back after maternity leave, like I think it can be done with really great integrity, but again, only if you're aligned to what it is that you're selling ultimately, you know. So thank you so much for today's session. Like I can't even I'm trying to think. I was making notes of like some of the things that we were touching on, and I was like, because obviously you've got to have an element of a hook to a podcast episode, but I was like, there's just so much here that different people are going to hear different messages throughout this episode, because we've just covered so much. Oh, let me just quickly pop into the Facebook group. But was there anything that you wanted to kind of leave the women with? Obviously, I'm going to be sending them to you immediately. For all of the stuff that you're talking about. Yeah.
when it comes to selling your soul aligned businesses, I think that the women that you're calling in have probably had a business for quite some time, because you're building generational wealth. Yes. Whereas I'm calling in the women that are quite new into the industry, and they're thinking about setting up a business. They're scared to put themselves out there as a spiritual leader. And they want to activate that divine feminine, and use the angel cards and be out there like that. That's the type of women that I'm sort of calling into my business, and that they want to sell, but they feel blocked. They feel a bit frozen around. They're coming from that kind of lack mindset around not showing up and fully being able to be seen. And that might be playing out in other areas of their lives, like in the bedroom, they don't ask for what they want. Yeah. In their business, they're not asking for what they want. And that's who I'm calling in, the types of women that want to show up and fully be seen and witnessed for who they truly are, that don't want to hide any part of themselves. And I have a workshop that is on the 25th of January, and it is a really low investment. I sometimes do workshops for free, but because there's so much value in this one, I'm just going to ask for a really low investment of £22. That's it. And that is called the Creatrix. And it's really learning how to master your business around your menstrual cycle and sell in an aligned, soulful way.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for making it so accessible. I always think that investment is symbolic though, as well, isn't it? Whether it's £1, whether it's £1 million, just the fact that you are essentially having that exchange of energy is always so important. They will show up with a whole nother new energy than just another free Facebook group, but also it allows you to deliver much more than just another free challenge. So thank you so much for that. That sounds amazing. And I'll absolutely be taking all the details, put it in the show notes on the YouTube and with the women in my community as well. But I just want to say thank you so much for being so gracious for your time, and really, how we're all connected, like you say, but also allowing me to kind of, find people like yourselves to help support that ultimate mission, which is for women to essentially create lives on their own terms, which, just feels really good to me. So thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording there, and ladies, make sure that you immediately head straight over to Laura's Instagram page to hear all about those incredible offers. Thank you for listening to this episode. It's been amazing to share this time with you, and I feel honoured to be part of your journey. If you've loved what you've heard, had an aha moment, or found value in this episode, then please do like, comment and share. I would love to connect with you on Instagram and Facebook, so come and find me, and I look forward to helping you build your epic life.